Welcome to our Coffee and Connections, hosted with Marketing with a Purpose, designed by Carla Marketing Services. So today we talk about a lot of things, but I have a really great presentation here today that we're going to go over. Our marketing is, about great ideas, our execution and strategy. And our goals in our business is to really invest in the value of your business to create fundamental marketing strategies for your business. So today we're going to, we are here to host this event with you along with a great presentation. So stand by. So I want to introduce myself. I am Carla Stiles. I am the owner of Designed by Carla, and I am an SEO seasoned developer, well over 25 years in marketing experience. We have been building the Designed by Carla marketing organization in digital marketing industry for quite some time, and I've really enjoyed the opportunity to really build small to medium-sized business into very productive and successful companies over the years. We all feel that businesses really don't work the same. And I really enjoy a personalized approach, really listening and carefully in designing the needs of the clients so that I can suggest real marketing strategies for their business. So I take a lot of pride in my work. And as a team, we're cohesive, and our honest approach and transparency is really good to help businesses build their online needs. So nice to meet you for today. I want to introduce our presenting sponsor. We have two actually today. One is Lighthouse Services here in Huntsville, Alabama. They are great for your financial and benefit needs. Reach out to these sponsors here today if you're in need for your company, even if you have just some simple questions about some of the things you need for your employees or for your business and financial investments as well. So this is Lighthouse Services. So thank you for being a sponsor on today's presentation. Another presenting sponsor today is Passion HR, and the team is excellent in HR consulting, along with job services for careers in the organization. They find talent management needs. They have resources and solutions for your businesses. So if you're looking for HR audits, policies, design and handbooks, even strategical HR management and planning, Passion HR has those resources for you, and they also include some career and jobs for the local industries here. So reach out to them if you're looking for those resources in Huntsville, Alabama, Nashville, and the Birmingham area. So I want to introduce you today to Jennifer Upton. She is our Coffee and Connection speaker. She presented this presentation back in March, and we're re-recording it for your benefit so that you can use this for your future, information if you've got questions and things that's going on. One of the things that we talk about that we learn is employee in dishonesty and theft costs U.S. businesses well over $500 billion annually, and employees theft is responsible for over 33% of businesses' bankruptcies. So today's presentation will understand why people steal and ways to set up strengths and controls with your business. So if you are a business owner, you may want to take some notes in today's episode. So I want to introduce you to Jennifer Upton. She's an absolute pleasure to be around. She is the partner and owner of Upton Advisory Services. So welcome to today's presentation, Jennifer. She is a partner and owner of that business, but she serves as a fractional and interim chief financial officer for different types of businesses, right? So welcome, Jennifer, and I'm going to turn this over to you so that you can start your presentation.
Thank you, Carla. I want to thank Carla for inviting me to speak today. It's rare to find someone who giggles with me, encourages me to talk about accounting controls, so I jumped at the opportunity before she had a chance to change her mind. I am a partner with Upton Advisory Services, a fractional CFO firm. We offer chief financial officer services on a part-time basis. We help businesses overcome financial needs, financial challenges by growing their business and improving their bottom line. This is our family. We have 2 daughters, and this is my husband, Steve. He is my business partner, my husband, and college sweetheart. So what we help our clients do is become more successful. Here, as you can see in the slide, we have a client asking us if it's time to change printer paper or printer ink when their financial statements are in the red, and we assure them, no, it's time to change controls around their business. So let's start out with a couple of questions here. Who in here is a good judge of character? Raise your hand.
I'm a good character.
You're good?
Yeah,
Good.
I do.
Yes.
Or at least I think I can.
Exactly. I would say so.
Yeah.
We've all gotten to this point in our career, most likely because we do have good judgment. So let's ask another question. Who thinks having criminal background checks conducted for anyone with access to your assets is a good idea?
I second that. Yes.
I do as well. Okay. We're going to get back to those questions. So John and Michelle Hines started Hines Roofing and Siding in Ardmore, Pennsylvania in 1991. Michelle graduated from Temple University. John had worked in the roofing industry for years. She and John prided themselves on being excellent judges of character. Their bookkeeper had been with them for 6 years when they asked her to close the company American Express card, and they never gave it a second thought. Now, their bookkeeper had quite the lavish lifestyle. She frequently saw the 76ers, the Dallas Cowboys, the Flyers. She went to Drake concerts, even had some plastic surgery. She had quite the lifestyle. You'd think this would be a red flag and someone might want to look into this.
I don't know if I would, I don't know, maybe red flags, maybe not, but that's kind of interesting that based on that salary, maybe they thought she was really good at managing her money.
Yeah, maybe so. Or maybe she had a spouse that made more money.
Yeah,
Who knows?
absolutely. Right.
But in retrospect, maybe we'd say, maybe we should have questioned that in retrospect, right?
In retrospect, it's kind of the after the fact.
Exactly. So in March 2020, 18 months after John and Michelle had the American Express card closed, they were in their office with their CPA getting their taxes done when American Express called regarding a past due balance of $59,000.
I don't know if I would, I don't know what I would do. I'd probably faint.
Well, and they assured Amex it was a mistake, that they had closed the account 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And so they were kind of stunned, and they started reviewing the Amex statements they could find and saw there had been charges continuing beyond the date that they had asked their bookkeeper to close the account. The Amex bill was not only being used by their bookkeeper, but it was also being paid from their business checking account.
Wow. So you're saying that she knew that the credit card should have been closed. She took it upon herself to continue, and she used it for her own benefit. Along with that, she was using their funds to pay it off.
Yes.
So double whammy.
Double whammy.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So not only was she doing that, but she had the address on the Amex statement changed to her personal account.
So they couldn't see it.
So they couldn't see it. She started not long before she got caught. She changed the address to her home address, changed the contact email from a work email to a personal email.
Wow.
So their accountant requested copies of all the statements and found that over $242,000 in charges had been made on the card without the owner's knowledge or consent.
I can't even imagine their faces when they saw that.
I can't either. From October 2018 to March 2020.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think I faint or just throw up my hands and say I quit.
Or rage. I don't know what would come first. Probably all those emotions.
Emotions, yeah.
Yeah. So further digging into the finances, they found not only the Amex card had been used, but also other company credit cards and the company's checking account had been used to fund the bookkeeper's lifestyle for a total.
So she started out with the American Express, and then she just moved on and used other funds to keep her lavish lifestyle.
For a total of $394,000 all told.
Wow.
She had some checks made out to cash. She paid her car payment. She paid her rent. She even had plastic surgery done.
Wow.
And paid for it with company funds.
Did they prosecute her?
They are in the process of prosecuting her as we speak.
That's good because most companies don't prosecute.
Exactly. So how did it happen? It happened because the bookkeeper picked up the mail. She opened the mail. She recorded all the transactions, and she reconciled all the accounts.
So she's the one-stop shop.
She was a one-stop shop. She did it all. No controls around her. She did everything.
That's when you totally trust somebody and they took full advantage of it.
Exactly.
When you least unexpected it, right? You were like, she's got it. She's my friend. She's part of the company.
She's been here 6 years.
She's part of the family. And that's sad that you would think that that's how you treat people that work with you, right?
Exactly. So the owners, while she did all that, the owners never looked at the bank statements or their credit card statements, and most likely they didn't look at their financial statements, or they would have noticed over 18 months, $394,000.
Or they could be just glancing over it, thinking it was part of the financials.
Yeah, it was just the costs were going up or something.
She could have been just giving them the beginning and the ending statement and nothing in between that.
Yeah, maybe so.
Like the tops of the bread, the top and the bottom of the bread, but nothing
exactly.
in
the ends.
No middle.
Not the good stuff.
Not the good stuff in the middle.
Exactly.
The filler.
Exactly. So I shared that story with you to show you just how vulnerable business owners are to theft by people that they trust.
Right.
And the Heinz bookkeeper had been with them 6 years when they asked her to close that account.
Wow.
And she had been trustworthy all those years until she wasn't. So let's revisit our questions. Who in here is a good judge of character?
Yeah, I
yes.
am.
So the thing is, we all think we have good judgment, that we can tell who's trustworthy, that we are great judges of character. And I hate to be the one to break it to you, but it's impossible to know who will steal from your business. So all of us who raised our hand knowing we're good judges of character are at risk of placing trust in people based on a gut feeling.
I think we all try to go by our gut feeling, but sometimes we are definitely misthinking, It's kind of that afterthought, like aha moment when you're, after you find out, you're like, you're kind of wishing that you had some better controls in place.
Yeah, exactly. And we are good judges of character, but we can't leave it to that, right? We can't leave it to just that. We've got to do more than that.
Well, I think that if you wanted to think about those things, that's when you start thinking about, how do you put things in control,
right?
And how do you learn from that?
Exactly. And so let's ask the other question we asked, which was, we think, who in here thinks getting a criminal background check on employees with access to their assets? Exactly. It is good. It is good. But here's the issue with that and why you can't just rely on that. In 2020, it was estimated that 23% of employees who steal from their company are prosecuted. That means even if you get a criminal background check, 77% of people who've stolen from their company are not prosecuted.
That's amazing.
77%.
And why is that? I would like to know. Is that because they're either it's prideful part or they just don't have the money to take them to court because they ripped them all. Right. They took all the money and stuffed it in their own pockets.
It's usually the money to go to court isn't as expensive because it's typically a crime. So the prosecutors, the county or state or
they can handle it.
Would be doing that. The time and expense comes in building a case.
Right.
It takes a lot of money to build a case that leads to a prosecution.
Why is that? Why would it take all that money to build that case? Is it people have to come in and go through all your records?
Well, like think about in the Heinz situation, they were in with their CPA and the CPA got all of their records. He had to go through all of these 18 months and then before that too, look at every bank transaction and every credit card transaction since she had been there.
Well, and cross-reference it. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So that just the time alone and the energy of doing that. And other reasons are, you said it earlier, emotional ties to employees. Many employees caught stealing have worked with their businesses for years, and they really practically become part of the family. You've been through marriages and children, weddings, graduations, funerals, and some owners just don't have the heart to prosecute someone who they felt like were part of their family, even though that person betrayed them.
Yeah.
And another one, sometimes owners are pretty wealthy or the theft was pretty petty compared to their net worth.
Yeah.
And they just don't think it's worth it. There's no real victim.
They're ready to just move on.
Just move on.
Yeah.
And then another one, like you mentioned, is pride and what it does to their reputation in the community. They don't want to admit publicly that they didn't know how to run their business well enough to keep someone from stealing from them. And it's embarrassing and it's bad for business.
Well, and to be honest with you, a lot of times we get so busy that we're just trying to we're trying to keep the business afloat, keep business coming, keep our employees employed, pay what we're supposed to pay. Where we trust people behind the scenes doing their job properly.
Right.
Maybe we just do it too much.
And you want to look forward. You don't want to, there's so much momentum in keeping the business running and going forward. You just don't want to have to go backwards and slow down your momentum.
I agree.
So that's why having strong controls in place is not a luxury, but a necessity for small businesses, regardless of the size of their staff. Now, I know some business owners do their own accounting, and we're going to say they can trust themselves, hopefully. But you can't even trust family members, sadly. You still need controls in place if family members are in your business.
Yeah.
So remember, the Heinz bookkeeper was a trusted employee who'd been with them for 6 years.
Wow.
When they asked this. So there's an old saying that goes around that says there are 2 reasons I don't trust people. One is I don't know them, and the second is I know them. So theft usually starts out pretty slow, and most thefts in company happen over years, not months, and not by newly hired employees, like we said, but by employees who've been with a company for a while.
And that is because they get comfortable in their setting and something arises and it's that little thing, right? So I think you said something like they do it and they intentionally was hopefully to pay back, and then it never happens.
Yes, exactly. It starts out small. And again, most people are honest.
Right.
And so putting controls in your business is not saying I don't trust anyone, even though of what I've seen, I don't trust anyone when it comes to finances. You need to put controls in place rather than trust.
Right.
So some reasons people steal are they see all that money running through an organization, they work hard, and they just kind of develop a sense of entitlement and feel like, well, they work hard. They work harder than the owner or work harder than the owner's kids who are getting paid, and they can justify it in their own minds.
Yeah.
Sort of.
So I agree with you. I think that was something you did say, is that if you're a business, don't give your kids, don't let them charge on the company credit card. Don't, use your credit card for your own financial gain in front of your employees, because then if they see you doing it, then they're going to go, well, if they're doing it, I'm doing it. Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people also steal because they just get desperate. Something happens. A spouse loses a job. A child gets sick. One of them gets sick.
Instead of
There's
asking.
divorce.
Right.
And instead of asking, they just say, you know what? I had an emergency this month. I'm going to take a little bit out this month, and then I'm going to put it back next month. Well, next month, a whole new set of emergencies comes, and they take it. And then before you know it, there's too much to put back, and it's become a part of their lifestyle, and they depend on it now.
Right.
This theft. So, and sadly, sometimes employees, develop addictions, and whether it's alcohol or drugs or shopping, whatever your personal addiction may be, and they use company funds to fund that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some ways that employees steal. So some is, like we've talked about before, is using the company credit card for personal purchases. Others are, if somebody's in charge of paying vendors, they'll create a fake vendor,
right,
and pay somebody.
That actually happened at one of the companies that I worked at, where the accountant was, and they had other accountants that did that, but she was strictly in charge of paying the contractors, and so she was in charge of the checkbook. She went into the system, created a fake contractor, and so what she did was that she would cut a check to that contractor. The vice president would sign off on the checks, and they didn't. I don't know if they didn't cross-reference the check with the work. He just all he did was add his signature block, because it wasn't stamped. But then she would mail the check off, and the vendor would get that check and get cash half, and she would get the other half.
Wow. Right. And the control that was missed there was we'll talk about some of that, setting up to vendors, but also they didn't ask for proper backup, like you said.
Right. And so I think that the way she got caught was that she had went on vacation, and that we were being audited, or they were auditing her, and then that's when they sent her on vacation. I don't know. So something happened. She went on vacation, and they found out that she had been hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know she had custom dresses made. She was going to concerts and on vacations, and and that's how you can start. When you start seeing those extreme changes like that, that's when you know that that's going on.
Something in her life has changed.
Something
we don't
yeah.
know if it's
We're like,
theft.
did she win the lottery?
Right, but something has changed.
Yes,
exactly.
right.
So other ways are, instead of vendors, sometimes people will set up fake employees if they're responsible for payroll. And they'll just add somebody on the payroll, and they're taking the check or sending it to someone.
Like their child or their husband or whatever.
And they cash the checks that way. Other types of theft are inflated hours on timesheets.
Oh, I've seen that a lot.
Yes, people clock in and out.
Actually, I've actually had that within my own company.
Wow.
Fake your time and
right,
right,
and that's theft.
right.
It's not easy to make $1 in business.
No,
and that hour's worth of pay is stealing from you, just
Yes.
like somebody writing a check out of your checkbook for
absolutely.
themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Other areas are people walking off with inventory or tools. And even we've talked about this, Carla, stealing intellectual property for internally developed methods and processes.
I think that's probably one of the biggest ones, because you can't get that back when you're you're internally building your own business. You have your own concept and home development. Is that the people that are working for you? You would think that they have that same type of respect, but 100% that the information that they're taking with them when they leave, no, it's not 100% theirs. And so that's probably one of the hardest ones to prove.
Right.
With if you did go to court, you really had to prove that they actually, it was not originally their idea in the beginning.
Exactly. And even your processes, how you go about setting up a new customer, how you learn about that customer and develop a plan for that customer and work with them. All of those processes were money out of your pocket and time to develop those, and someone can walk away with those. And that is theft that a lot of people don't think about. So let's talk about some basic cost-effective controls. So the first one you mentioned earlier, Carla, is you set the tone at the top for controls. As the business owner, if you're using the business credit card and the company vehicles and all for a lot of personal use, you're letting your kids use them, employees see that and they think that, okay, controls really aren't that important. They say you're not supposed to use company cars or credit cards for personal use, but the owner does it, so it must be okay. So that's hard, but keeping that separate, keeping your personal life from business, in terms of company assets is setting the tone at the top for all the other employees.
Well, I think the thing when you're running a business, you really don't know, I mean, we just want to run a business. We just want to get out, meet clients, do our job, expand the business. And there's always that one thing or one person that happens to take information from us, and it puts us in a standstill. So for me, it's like, if we had this information up front when we started the business, we would have better controls in front. So it's nice to know that there's these options for us as business owners, that we can hire people like you to come in and go, hey, these are the things that, create that checklist for us because we need that.
Right. Exactly. And that's one of them. And another one is, minding the store. You got to mind the store as a business owner. You need to take time to review your company bank statements and credit card statements. And when I say you, it doesn't have to be you, the business owner, but you, someone separate from the people who are doing the transactions, needs to be reviewing that information to make sure nothing is awry. That strange vendor that was created, that weird employee, whatever, the checks you don't recognize. Next is setting a schedule to review financial statements every month. Sometimes we'll hear business owners say, oh, my accounting manager, my bookkeeper is too busy and she doesn't have time to get the financial statements to me. Well, that's a red flag for a lot of reasons. Not necessarily that they're stealing, but maybe you're understaffed grossly. If you can't get monthly financial statements, you don't have enough people in there, or you don't have the right person. They don't know what they're doing and they're kind of lost and they don't know how to do it. Or they could be taking money from you and they don't want it to show up in financial statements, and they're afraid you'll find it if they see it. So taking time every month to look at your financial statements as a business owner is really not an option.
And we're not saying that every business, there's always somebody that's stealing.
Right.
But there's protocols that we need to set up at the very beginning that needs to protect us, because if we want to grow, when we want to grow right, you want to put the right people in place to do the right things.
Right. And internal controls isn't really, in the accounting world, designed to keep people from stealing from you. It's designed to create proper financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The controls are there to make sure your sales are recorded properly, your expenses are recorded properly, your payrolls recorded properly, that you're meeting your obligations. And so this is a side benefit of internal controls, is that it can prevent theft, especially if you put them in place so you don't make it easy for someone to steal from you.
Right.
And you want to set it up where you've got at least a couple of people doing different things. For example, we call it segregation of duties. So whoever has access to the assets and recording and reconciling, those three things should be separated once you get to a certain size in a business. So that means if you get the checks, you shouldn't be the one recording the checks, taking them to the bank, posting them to cash receipt, the customer's accounts, and doing the financial statements and reconciling the bank account. That's just too much. That's what the bookkeeper at Heinz was doing, as we discussed earlier. So we want to separate those things so that we make it really difficult for one person to steal from you. So that person that falls on hard times, it's not an easy access for them. I'm sure you would much, as a business owner, prefer someone to come to you and say, Carla, can I have a $500 loan?
Right.
I can't make my rent this month.
Right.
Versus them just taking it and thinking they're going to put it back next week,
right.
Or next month. So having controls set up will prevent a lot of that. So another thing is, and you mentioned it with the fraud case you were personally familiar with, is forcing all finance people who have access to your assets to take at least 1 week of vacation every year.
Mm-hmm.
And someone else has to do their job. It doesn't back up.
Yeah.
Someone else has to do it. So I was a CFO of a large nonprofit, and there were virtually no controls over cash when I joined. And our audit was due within the first month that I arrived. And when our audit began, our accounting supervisor broke out in fever blisters, and she was a nervous wreck. And I just sorted the red flags. My antenna went up a little bit with that.
And you knew something was up?
Well, I was just suspicious. It was very strange. So I didn't think she'd steal because, I'm a good judge of character. So of course she wouldn't steal, right? But the thing is, the opportunity was there for her to steal. The opportunity was there. She picked up the mail. She made out the deposit. She posted the cash receipts to the customer account. She did the bank recs and the financial statements.
Wow.
So the opportunity was there for her to steal. After about 2 weeks there, I segregated all the duties, and I made it where our receptionist picked up all the mail and listed all the checks. And then another person made out the deposit and then gave copies of the check to the person who would post the check and do the reconciliation. And then I would get a copy of the checks that were listed, and I would compare those to the bank statement to make sure those got deposited every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because if you've got a huge amount of money coming into your company, I mean, even if it's a small, you're growing business, you want to make sure you have these things in set. But if you're a company that's got checks coming in on a daily, daily, you want to make sure that there's some checks and balances set up.
Exactly. Like even a retail storefront where someone comes in and buys something and they write a check. You want to make sure that there's proper controls around the inventory that's bought, the cash register, that every sale gets recorded and gets balanced every day, and that goes to the bank.
Yeah.
So there's lots of controls that you can build in, again, to keep honest people honest.
Absolutely.
So
try to.
Or try to.
Yeah.
Exactly. I came into another organization as an outsourced CFO to help them. And very shortly, I would say within the first couple of weeks I was there, the CEO put me on as a check signer for their $3 million investment account.
Wow. I don't know if I would probably break out in fever blisters doing. I don't
Exactly.
know. I'm like, that's a little much for
It's a
me.
lot.
Like, why would I?
Right.
Because that's a huge amount of money to be
It's
responsible
huge.
for.
And the thing is, the CEO didn't get access to that information. And when she set me up, I had access to, either one of us could make transactions on that account. And I did all the accounting for it. So really, I could have stolen money, and it would have been at least a year before anyone found it.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
so I immediately set up controls around that, where I no longer got the statement. We went back and made it where one could um, initiate the transaction, the other one had to approve it.
Yeah.
So again, keep one person honest. Two people could collude, but that's very rare to have that happen.
Have you ever had that happen before, where two people were in cahoots with each other like
Oh
that?
yes, especially in like retail areas where you've got inventory. And I remember actually just going to a grocery store years ago, and I was watching somebody, and she was only ringing up about one every fifth item on the thing
On
that
the
came
conveyor
through,
belt?
on the conveyor belt that came
Wow.
through, and the rest she was pushing through.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it happens.
And
So
and it's sad, because I don't think people really understand that if you steal from your own company, do you realize that you don't have a job? Not only that, but the company is going to be out of business.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you're not really doing any good
Mm-mm.
trying to do that with your own company, because it's the domino effect.
Right. It's very short-sighted.
Right.
And it's that what we talked about before, that
I think I mentioned in the very beginning about 33% of businesses go out of business because they have to bankrupt.
Right. They don't have controls over things,
Right.
especially retail. And retail,
And they could be really
areas.
good businesses.
Yes, they could be great businesses. They just didn't take time to build in proper controls because they got very busy. They were successful very
Yes.
fast, grew fast,
Yep.
and just didn't make that a priority. So, in closing, I just want y'all to take a minute to think about John and Michelle Hines in Pennsylvania. They had their bookkeeper arrested, and the case is being prosecuted. Think about how much time, energy, and money they spent to get the documentation just for an arrest warrant, and all the time their CPA and his staff had to spend. They're going to prosecute her, but they spent tons of hours building that case. I wonder how much business they lost from potential customers who weren't using them because they couldn't take care of their own business well enough to keep from being stolen. So would people really trust them to take care of their home? That's a black eye in the community on their business. So I just want to ask one more question, but I want to phrase it differently this time. Who thinks they can rely on their good judgment as a strong internal control?
I don't know if I can now.
You cannot.
I thought, when we first did this presentation and we talk about talking to you about, good judge of character, we all think we do, but hindsight is that we don't really. We try. Our intentions in a business is to do the best that we can, but unfortunately, these things happen to us, and so it's a learning curve. We constantly learn, and so owning a business is not always easy. But then when you've got people behind the scenes that are doing things to you as well, that just makes you think about it and judge about, who do you want on your team now at this point.
Right. And the key is just put controls in place. If you've got 3 or 4 people, just put some good controls in place, and make it hard for them to do that. And you at night can rest assured knowing your business is going to be there as long as you want it to be there. You've got a good idea, good concept, things are going well, and you don't have to worry about being one of those 33%.
And we talk about different kinds of theft. We talk about time, material, even if it's paper clips, even the smallest little things. People don't really think about it. Even if you make a copy at your work that doesn't belong to you, those little things do add up, and people don't realize that. So though, I mean, you shed some light on some things for me when we had our own conversation, because we did our own podcast together and we talked about this as well. But I do think that this was a very informative presentation for all businesses to take note. Always have those backups and have other people touch the things that when they come in, right? Mail comes in, there are different people touching that mail. So,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
So thank you, Jennifer, for coming in. This is information that if you want to contact Jennifer for any questions, she's got her phone number down below. You can also email her directly and reach out to her. She has the knowledge, she has the experience to help you and your business to be successful in today's presentation. Thank you for being a part of our presentation today. And this is how you get in touch with Design by Carla and our marketing services here. I also host a Coffee and Hustle podcast, and we talk about business challenges and the ups and downs of your businesses. Such a great podcast to be on, right, Jennifer?
Yes, it's wonderful. Thank
So,
you.
and Jennifer loved she called me her little, what'd you call me? What I think it was, like, you gave me a nickname.
Oh, what was your nickname?
I don't know.
Fireball.
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 So
Yes.
I have a nickname now.
Yes.
But anyways, contact us. We have some QR codes here. You can reach out to us, our website, or any other information that you may have as far as marketing solutions that you may need for your businesses. So again, thank you for joining us on the presentation. See you again soon.